All right, Extrema. Looking at relative maximums, relative minimums, absolute maxes, and absolute mins. Talking through this real quick, the relative maximum is going to be the top of any curve. So if we're looking at the graph, the top of any curve is a relative max. The bottom of any curve is a relative minimum. Okay, so you're going to have multiple relative maximums, you're going to have multiple relative minimums. Absolute max, the absolute highest point, okay? But that can't be infinity. Infinity is not a point, so do not tell me the absolute maximum is infinity. Absolute minimum is the absolute lowest point. Again, negative infinity is not an absolute minimum. It is not a point. So pause the video, take these notes real quick, and then we'll look at some examples. All right, going back to your notes page. What I want to do is look at these graphs. So, looking at this graph, let's talk about relative max and min first. So remember I said it is the top or bottom of any curve. So relative maximum is going to be the top of any curve. So there's the top of a curve right there. That's at the point 0, 4. So there's a relative max at 0, 4. Relative minimums. Bottom of any curve. There's two bottoms this time. So there's a bottom there, and there's a bottom there. So this is at -3, -1. And it's also at 1, 2. Both of those are relative minimums. You have multiple relative minimums. Now let's talk about absolute max and absolute min. So absolute maximum, absolute highest point. So if we're looking at this, our graph goes up. Therefore, there is no absolute maximum. All right, so none. Absolute minimum. This is the absolute lowest point. There's nothing below it, so this point is an absolute minimum. It is the point -3, -1. So it serves as a relative minimum, and it is also an absolute minimum. Go ahead and try this next problem on your own, and then hit play whenever you're ready. All right, hopefully you finished this problem now. Relative maximum, top of any curve, so that's just right there. So that's at the point -1, 0. Bottom of any curve, that's here. That is at the point -2, -3. Okay. Absolute max, our graph goes to infinity, so there's none. Absolute minimum, our graph goes to -infinity, so there's none. All right, same thing. Go ahead and try this last problem. There's going to be a lot of relative maximums and minimums for this thing. All right, hopefully you've had the time to go ahead and do this. If not, again, hit the pause button and get it done. Okay, so relative maximums, top of any curve. We are at the top of a curve there. So that point is 3, 2. Another top of a curve here. So 6, 4. And then another top of a curve here. I think that's the point 9, 2. So when we look at our relative maximums, there are multiple relative maximums, 3 of them. There's the top of the curve in 3 different locations, okay? Now let's look at relative minimums. So the bottom of any curve, so we have a bottom of a curve there. That is at the point 4, 1. Another bottom here. That is at the point 7, 0. Okay, and that is all the relative maximums and minimums. So let's talk about absolute maxes. The absolute highest point is here. So that's the 0.64. Absolute minimum, it goes to negative infinity on both sides, so there's no absolute minimum. Okay? Hopefully you understand Extrema at this point. Go ahead and fill out the table. Let me know if you have any questions.